Chapter 4. Ohio. The next afternoon, while getting ready to meet Tom, Sky hummed to herself, feeling the glow of a job well done. She had just wrapped up a session with a young girl who was making excellent progress, and that put her in a great mood. As she made her way out of the waiting area, she stopped to talk to her assistant, Caroline. Sky's gaze scanned her desk. The best employee Sky had ever had, Caroline had a serious attachment to an amazing array of knickknacks, all of which littered the tall reception area. Sky moved aside a small snow globe that held a miniature range of mountains with a tiny rustic cabin teetering on the top of one peak. The slogan, "Mountaineers are always free," scrolled across its midnight blue base. Sky leaned over the high counter and reminded herself that the kids loved them. It was Caroline's usual habit to listen for Sky's arrival, to be helpful before Sky realized she needed help, but today she didn't even turn around when Sky tipped over one of her precious baubles. Caroline's eyes were glued to her computer screen. Sky cleared her throat and said, "Caroline, I wanted to mention." Caroline almost knocked over her chair as she clenched at her heart. Both women gave a nervous, little laugh. "I am so sorry, Caroline," Sky said, her own hand on her chest. "Oh my goodness. Ms. Jackson. I apologize. I never do this. This is just so crazy," Caroline said in a flustered rush, as she pointed to the computer screen. "Please, Caroline, call me Sky," she reminded her again. But Caroline had returned to the monitor, and Sky talked to the back of her head. "What are you watching? Just so you know, I don't surf the web while I'm working, I really don't. But my friend called at break and said I had to see this video as soon as possible. She was right. This is crazy. Is it the one that happened here, right outside town?" "What? No. Thank the Lord. This was up in Ohio." A tingle trailed Sky's spine. "Can I watch too?" Caroline turned the monitor so Sky could see, but she soon wished the receptionist hadn't. Sky felt the hair lift from the back of her neck, and nausea start in the pit of her stomach. "What is going on?" she murmured. "I've never heard of anything like this except rabies, and we hear of some odd things in these hills." Caroline's quiet, serious tone suggested how strange some of those things could be. Caroline shivered. Her words fired up Sky's already frenzied imagination, and she had to drag her attention back to the screen. A mother cried bitter tears in the semi-blurred background. A white ambulance with blood red striping down its side, its bright lights flashing, sat close to the camera. Two gym-honed emergency workers with masked faces wheeled a gurney between them. A young teenage girl lay on top, restraints binding her. The bands dug into her upper arms and wrists, further whitening her skin around them. It was clear she would have been dangerous without them. The girl's long blonde hair fell in a tangled jumble over the front of the gurney as she thrashed her slim body from one side of the cot to the other. She twisted and turned, trying to escape the bands that held her in place. The girl moved with such force the small wheels of the stretcher lifted off the ground before banging back to the concrete. The paramedics strained as they rolled the gurney along the sidewalk and dodged the girl as she lunged toward first one and then the other. A wide-eyed, freaked-out newswoman tried to hold it together as she reported the story. Her gaze darted between the camera and the girl on the stretcher as she told the news story. The girl, she stated, had been ill for a few days with cold and flu symptoms. A frantic mother had reported a dramatic change today. Known by all in the neighborhood to be a respectful, cheery teenager, the girl had become angry, screeching and ranting, often making no sense. As the day wore on, she became physically aggressive, striking, then kicking and biting her mother. As the newscaster looked over at the girl, she shuddered before droning on. The gurney started and stopped several times as it bumped over the uneven sidewalk, making its way closer to the camera. The young girl continued to thrash on the stretcher between the two paramedics, her mouth snapping open and shut again and again. She was wild as she struggled to attack the two men. The paramedics were now at the back of the emergency vehicle, turning the gurney to enter the ambulance. For the first time, Sky could see the girl's entire face. Her hands clenched the lip of Caroline's desk. Wild, distant eyes. Blue lips. Bloody foam spewed from her open mouth. The girl's hands jerked against the bands that held her. Blue-tipped fingers curled inward and clenched. Her body started to convulse. The violent quaking quickened as the paramedics slid her into the ambulance. The girl's mother followed the gurney, hands to her face, sobbing. Blood ran down her shoulders and arms from open wounds. The girl had been vicious. These were not only bites, but large patches of torn, hanging skin. Sky stood transfixed, her breath refusing to come. This disease, which had been strange yesterday, had just turned terrifying. No. It can't be, could it? The girl is just like the man. One would be unusual, but two people with rabies in little more than 12 hours? Sky turned away, unable to watch any longer. As she moved away from Caroline's desk, the newscaster continued to report. According to the hospital, this is the 10th case of this mysterious illness in this part of Ohio. Sky's jaw dropped, and she stepped back. This part of Ohio? The 10th case? Where else had this mysterious illness been seen?